Hi, everyone, and welcome to our project, Predictive Modeling at McMurdo Station. My name is Amy Holt, and I'm presenting today on behalf of our team, Jesse Brown, Stephen Barden, and myself. McMurdo Station is located on Ross Island in Antarctica. It's the southernmost place accessible by ship and serves as an important hub for scientific research. The red dot is approximately where the station is located. Our team set out to build a predictive model for daily temperatures at McMurdo Station. We used historical weather data to predict these patterns and applied models to predict warming trends that could impact Antarctic wildlife. We creatively framed this as a penguin hijack, imagining a group of penguins plotting to escape to safer climates. The goal was to highlight, in a playful but serious way, the real threats posed by climate change to the species that live on this continent. Our dataset had about 1,000 rows, with each representing a day's worth of weather observations at the station. The main outcome variables we explored included maximum, minimum, and average daily temperatures. To train our model, we used a combination of temperature measurements, wind speed and direction, and barometric pressure. These are key indicators influencing Antarctic weather patterns. And here's a quick overview of our data columns and units, ranging from temperatures in Celsius to wind speeds in kilometers an hour. So we performed important data cleaning that removed many variables with too many missing values, such as snow depth and sunshine hours. We extracted a month number from the date field to track seasonal trends without creating multi-collinearity. And after the cleanup, we had 1,083 observations with 9 variables to work with. Also part of our data preparation, we split the data into 60% training and 40% test sets, and implemented a tenfold cross-validation strategy to ensure we had a reliable model for performance. We developed 5 models, a 7-day moving average as a basic benchmark. Then moving into our machine learning models, we developed a linear regression model as a baseline predictive model. And then 3 other machine learning models, random forest, support vector machine, and k-nearest neighbors. And let's get into a little bit about what these models are. So linear regression predicts a numeric target by fitting a straight line to the data, and it's very good for simple relationships. Random forest, it's many decision trees and it's used for more stable, less biased predictions. And it captures complex interactions between predictors like nonlinear effects of temperature, wind, and seasonality. And it's very good at handling missing data and outliers. And in this case, we found that it was the most useful because we had a lot of predictors that were interacting in pretty complex nonlinear ways. And then we also had some very extreme temperature data. KNN predicts a value based on averaging it with nearby neighboring data points. It's simple, but it does struggle when you add in a lot of variables. SVM, support vector machines, tries to draw the separation, the margin between values, even in complicated spaces. It's useful if patterns aren't linear, but in this case it didn't perform as well as random forest. So what we found was that random forest, SVM, and KNN outperformed our linear model baseline. The moving average as a benchmark didn't even perform nearly as well as the machine learning models. And of them all, as I mentioned, the random forest model achieved the best performance with the lowest root mean squared error and the highest R squared values, indicating it had excellent predictive power. Specifically, the random forest model tested different numbers of predictors at each split in the decision tree, settling on 9 predictors as the best setup. And it produced a very strong RMSE of 2.23 and an R squared of 93.5, meaning that 93.5% of the variance was able to be predicted by this model. So looking at the random forest model, the most important features were the minimum temperature, the month number, which was indicative of the season, the wind direction, the wind speed, and pressure. And the interpretation for this that we took was that minimum temperature is highly predictive of the maximum temperature shifts. Weather instability factors like pressure and wind also contribute to Tmax changes. And of course, the season of the year, whether it's winter or summer, is also going to be very indicative of whether you're going to have very high temps or very low temps. And this hex bin plot shows the predicted versus actual max temps. And as you can see, they cluster very tightly around the perfect match diagonal line. And this strong clustering indicates a good model with the spread even with the spread at the extreme values. In the context of Antarctica with such extreme temperatures, we expect a certain amount of noise at the extremes. So this is perfectly normal. And after validating the model, we deployed it under simulated future conditions by adjusting temperatures to mimic the effects of climate change. And this is where our fictional penguin scenario comes into play. The mission is to assist our penguin agents to plan their great escape from a warmer Antarctica. We simulated a +2 degrees Celsius Antarctic warming, 1.5 degrees from global warming, and an additional 0.5 degrees from calmer winds. In other words, we reduced the wind speed by 50%. This helped us predict how penguin colonies might collapse under future conditions, because small shifts threaten the stability of sea ice, krill populations, and breeding success. These variables would determine whether a daring penguin evacuation would be needed. Stephen created some fun visualizations that showed our penguins preparing for the mission. The first penguin recon plot is our Gen 2 beak strategy. Beaks are not only handy tools for the heist, but they show there are clear clusters by species for bill depth and bill length. In other words, how long the penguin's bill is and how tall it is. And these are important measurements to consider when packing perturbed penguins into a C-130. As you can see in the green, emperor penguins have the greatest spread in their bill dimensions, and they are clearly in a class by themselves. Adelies and rockhoppers in the fuchsia and red share some overlap in their bill sizes, while chinstrap and gentoos are more similar in their length, even while their bill depth is different. So if you're packing a plane of penguins based on bill length, you might consider pairing adelies with rockhoppers and chinstraps with gentoos, and definitely put the penguins in their own section. The next penguin recon plot that we created was rockhoppers bulking up. Rockhoppers are taking weight for all of our penguins. So body mass, as we know, is critical to knowing how much fuel the C-130 is going to need for takeoff and the space requirements we have inside, so we know how many penguins we can take. The majority of the penguins fall between 1 and 7 kilograms, as we can see on the left side of the plot, but we have a few proper bruisers tipping the scales between 20 and 40 kilograms off to the right. And finally, the last penguin bit of recon is our Gen 2 wingspan check. Gen 2 penguins are checking their brethren's wingspans, which is critical for boarding the C-130. And it looks like, once again, the emperor penguins are going to need the extra wing space for their penguin elbows. Considering bill dimensions, Adelies and rockhoppers have similar bill spans, but different wingspans. So body mass would need to be the deciding factor for who needs to sit with who if you're not an emperor. So by now, I'm sure everyone wants to know just how many penguins you can fit in a C-130 Hercules. To prepare for our penguin extraction, we calculated the carrying capacity of a C-130 aircraft based on the body mass of each species and the emergency supplies they're going to need to take. Smaller species like Adelie and chinstrap penguins could be transported in larger numbers, approximately 550 or 570 per flight, while larger emperor penguins reduced capacity to 190. Factors like body mass, wingspan, and bill dimensions also influenced seating arrangements, with smaller penguins being packed closer together and large ones needing more space. And all of this goes to highlight logistical challenges of transporting different penguin species. So this became an optimization problem for us. So when we finally calculated how many penguins could board a C-130, accounting for their body mass and 1 kilogram of emergency supplies per bird, we found 857 Adelies, 849 chinstraps, only 65 of our king-size emperors, 502 Gen 2s, and 1,665 of our itty-bitty rockhoppers. And the final manifest came to 18,992.08 kilograms, which comes safely under the 19,000 kilogram cargo limit for the C-130 Hercules. And this plan is designed to include a realistic balance of different penguin species. So let's put some real-world context on this now that we've had a little bit of fun. So while our penguin hijack narrative was playful, the real-world stakes are serious. Antarctic diversity is critical to ocean food chains. Penguins, krill, fish, and larger predators like seals and orcas are all interconnected. The fish eat the krill, the penguins eat the fish, the seals eat the fish, and eventually the orcas eat the seals. If we lose one part of this chain, the whole system collapses. And our simulation and further research showed that even a +2 degrees Celsius increase could push McMurdo's summer highs dangerously close to -18 degrees Celsius. And this is the threshold at which the probability of a complete emperor penguin colony collapsing and becoming quasi-extinct is almost certain. So small temperature rises can have devastating effects on entire ecosystems. So I want to point out that record low amounts of sea ice in 2023 led to major losses in penguin populations. And that was prior to the first breach of the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming mark that climate scientists have been warning us about. And this happened for the first time briefly in 2024, according to Earth.org. So modest increases in Antarctic coastal temperatures can reduce essential sea ice, disrupt the krill populations, and raise chick mortality. And so what we find is that warming, even by 2 degrees C at McMurdo, can push penguins into collapse. And our random forest model was the most accurate way to find this information because of its nonlinear effects. And this takes our penguin hijack scenario into a real-world rescue mission, which would require detailed planning that would consider size, weight, and biology of each penguin species that would be rescued. And on reflection, predictive models like this can allow scientists to identify environmental risk before disasters happen. So the end conclusion is small temperature rises, huge consequences, and the ice is already melting. So I do want to point out some ways that this particular presentation went above and beyond. We went beyond the required 3 models by using 4 machine learning models plus a mathematical model, the moving average. We applied our model, our trained model, to a real world situation. We also had the optimization problem of our C-130 loading to just add a creative quantitative scenario to solve and link it to a real world rescue mission that may eventually become the case. And we used some professional coding practices, which Stephen was able to bring in from his previous experience, like air handling, modular functions, and full reproducibility. We also kept the audience engaged with creative storytelling, like our penguin hijack, which made a very dreary scientific analysis and discussion on the effects of climate change not only more palatable, but more memorable as well. We did have a number of outside scientific references, and I will just put those here for you to explore at your leisure. I will note the data that we used for our models did come from NOAA, and that there was some really great information on the effects of climate change in Antarctica from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. It was a very enlightening article. And finally, a couple of acknowledgements and disclosures. Special thanks to the project team. I took the lead. I was able to blend our code together and put together the final analysis and presentation. Jesse got everything rolling with our data development and modeling. Stephen for his quality assurance and visualizations and the creative penguin hijack storytelling. So thank you everyone for helping our penguin hijack take flight. And last but not least, this is our AI disclosure. Here are the ways that we used AI. All the substance, modeling, and major content creation were authored by this student team. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.